Team Thrasymachus presents Plato's 5 Types of Soul in Game of Thrones.
What does Game of Thrones have to do with Plato's 5 types of soul?
To answer this question, we first have to understand the correlation Plato makes between the 5 types of regimes and the corresponding souls that go with them. According to Plato, there are 5 types of regimes: aristocracy, timocracy, oligarchy, democracy, and tyranny. Each regime has a corresponding soul. Thus, the aristocrat, the timocrat, the oligarch, democrat, and tyrant all follow from these regimes.
So with these 5 types of soul in mind, we're going to show how some characters in Game of Thrones relate to each type of soul.
Plato describes the aristocrat as a ruler that's very philosophical in nature. They are wise and constantly guided by reason. In Republic, the aristocrat is always looking out for the best needs of the city without putting their own or any other individual class's needs ahead of those of the collective city as a whole.
So in relation to Daenerys Targaryen, the 2 relevant characteristics is the fact that she does what's best for the city and she's ruled by reason. She does what's best for the city, and this is probably best exemplified in season 5 when she kills Masador, one of the freemen. Although this will pit 2 different parts of the city against her, she thinks that everyone should follow the law, and that will create the most harmony within the city if they do. And she also, the second point, she exemplifies reason because she's moderate both in her unnecessary and necessary desires. She doesn't seem to indulge too much in either. So.
The timocratic man is like Glaucon. He is guided by the spirited part of his soul. He is courageous, warrior-like, and loves honor.
So similar to Glaucon and the timocratic man, Jon Snow exemplifies spiritedness, courage, he's warlike, and so forth. This is exemplified multiple times in the series. Specifically, when the Wildlings attack the Wall, he protects the Wall, and when things are looking bleak, people look to him as a source of inspiration and courage.
The oligarchic man loves money. He satisfies his necessary desires and controls his unnecessary desires. He is also thrifty and power-hungry.
So a good representation of the oligarchic man in Game of Thrones is Peter Baelish. He controls his unnecessary desires, so he doesn't spend more than he needs. He's money-loving. He owns a prostitute ring, for example, and he's also very power-hungry. Throughout the series, he's manipulating people to get what he wants so he can have more power.
Plato describes the democratic soul as fickle in nature and being fueled by unnecessary desires. Their lack of order leads them to both impulsive thoughts and behavior in nearly every aspect of their life.
Though it's not a perfect fit, Sherry does seem to represent some characteristics of the democratic man. She's impulsive and fickle. At the beginning of the show, she's committed to Tyrion, but she ends up betraying him and sleeping with Tyrion's dad, and she also testifies against Tyrion in court. So she does exhibit some impulsive and fickle behavior.
Plato describes the soul of the tyrant as being fueled by unlawful desires. This leads them to impulsive behavior to constantly satisfy these appetites. Their lack of moderation leads them to be unjust, untrustworthy. This leads to a lack of allies or any substantial friends. They are constantly in a paranoid state in fear of their demise.
Joffrey Baratheon is probably the best exemplification of a tyrant in Game of Thrones. He's cruel, impulsive, and friendless. This is exemplified throughout the show. He treats his wife poorly, he treats all his friends poorly, and he is pretty much friendless besides, if you count his mom, I guess he's not, but besides that, he has no friends and pretty much no allies.
We have just explained some of the characteristics that Plato's types of souls have exemplified. Hopefully, we've given you a better understanding of Plato's 5 types of soul and how some of the characters in Game of Thrones also have some of these characteristics.